to another Ask Philip. This is for April 19th, 2024. A few things to go over today because sad face emoji. We do not have any questions that anybody posted to the Ask Philip thread. And this is a service we provide completely free. We've had some amazing questions and live Q&A here. There's nothing like it, not even the podcast where I tend to cover more generic questions and I do it somewhat sporadically. This is a weekly service. So everybody in this group who join this group to get help with their health and fitness goals and not just binge content should absolutely be taking advantage of this service. And many of you have in the past. So Alan will continue to post the prompt for these. You can submit your questions by Thursday and then I'll answer them. If we don't get a decent volume of questions, that'll be good feedback to me that maybe this isn't something we are looking for in this community. And I will, maybe reduce the frequency or stop doing it altogether. So definitely take advantage of this. And that's all the scolding I'm going to do today because I do want to acknowledge we have so many new members. We're closing in on 700 and all these bright smiling faces that recently joined. Donna, Todd, Crystal, Jonathan, Emily, Andrew, Claire, Jennifer, Maria, Lori, Orlando, Russell, goes on and on. Some of you found us through the podcast. Some of you may have downloaded a free resource. Some of you may be in Wits Weights Physique University, maybe recommended by a friend, maybe invited by a friend. And so a lot of you are new here. And like many Facebook groups, it's kind of, you might be unsure, okay, how do I take advantage of this other than browsing content? And I think there's a couple of things. First, go to the guide section and watch the Start Here videos. They're very short. One is about how to use the group and one is about how to use this, what I'm giving you here, which is the Ask Philip Weekly Q&A, which, by the way, if you search the hashtag Ask Philip, you'll find past Q&As, which are answering questions from the community. And so this is kind of like getting free coaching through this community because you can ask me a question for your context and get an answer, or just use the group in general during the week to get an answer. We're super supportive, super positive. But again, with everything going on, we have, I've got my one-on-one coaching in the podcast. We just launched Wits Weights Physique University, and with a lot of new people in there that are getting a ton of value. And they get more direct coaching. Still, this is a free service, this Ask Philip thread, that I would love you to take advantage of if you find it helpful. But if you don't, that's fine too. That's feedback and I'll learn from it and we'll move on from there. But with as many members as we have, I would hope some of you would want to take advantage of that. So definitely jump in and do that. A few announcements today. We have the latest podcast episode out is a guest interview with Paul Salter. Many of you remember him from the Stop Self-Sabotage training he did exclusive to our group. He was also on the podcast a long time ago, and he's on again this time to talk about how to turn excuses into action. And by excuses, I mean procrastination and perfectionism and all the very specific ways that we prevent ourselves from moving forward. Even if those of us who have a lot of experience and have made a lot of progress, myself included, I will find myself making excuses based on, either personality traits or history or something deep-seated in my past or just the way I'm framing the situation. And Paul kind of goes through these different scenarios and I pick his brain on how do we handle them, specifically what strategies can we use to reframe or turn that around and start taking more action. So I think it's a really good episode. You'll want to check that out. Also this week, the Quick Wits that came out yesterday was about HRV. For those of you who have an Oura Ring or another way to track HRV and are curious about what it's all about. The earlier Quick Wits this week was about restriction versus deprivation. I think it's a good example of defining your terms and looking at semantics between how we describe things. Kind of interesting. Why is this happening? Okay. So then, and also the solo episode that came out on Tuesday was about food logging that doesn't suck. So that was a little bit different take on food logging of how to make the experience more enjoyable and maybe some things that you are doing now, even if you are using MacroFactor, that are making it harder on yourself and causing friction. And kind of going back to today's episode on things that we do to ourselves, might not even realize it, that are making it harder than it has to be. And I address some of those. So definitely check all those out. Follow the show. I know I say this a lot, but although as much as I would love for you to do a rating and review, I know people don't always take the few minutes to do that. I would love that. The best thing you could do, honestly, is click follow in your app because Apple and Spotify use the follow statistics for the algorithm more than anything else. So definitely follow, but I would also appreciate a review if you love the podcast, and any feedback if you want to make it better. The next thing is, speaking of the podcast, some of the upcoming guest episodes, we did more bonus content, where you will receive a bonus video. Usually it's about 7 to 10 minutes long by email the Monday after the podcast with an extra conversation at the tactical level. So usually on those interviews, I will ask the guest, hey, let's hang around 10 minutes at the end of the recording and let's go through one specific problem that people normally have and what the solution is for that. I'm trying to think of one of the ones coming up. We did the glute training with Sue Bush. I'm not sure I did that as bonus content though. But we definitely have others that are in there. Oh, I know one, for example, with Haley Fountain on thyroid health. Her episode's coming out next week. And so the following Monday, you'll get a drop with, we did a Q&A from the community. So a lot of you asked questions, mainly women, but also some of the men asked questions about thyroid health. And I asked her those and she answered them, but only in the bonus. So if you're not on my email list to get that, you want to go to witsandweights.com/bonus. That's it. Just put your information in and you will get that. You'll get other information. You'll get podcast updates. You'll get roundup emails. I send out occasional tips on training and nutrition, mindset stuff, all sorts of content, and you can unsubscribe anytime if you don't like it. So definitely go to check that out. All right. Last thing I want to mention today, since we don't have a question in Ask Philip, I thought I would ask a question. I would answer a question that a lot of you have lots of time. I can't speak this morning. So, and that is about rest periods specifically. But in this case, the question was, how does training to failure affect your rest periods? And this is from the Mass Research Review, which I subscribe to. I subscribe to several reviews. And this is the one with by Stronger by Science. And this particular article is by Michael Zordos. And rather than go through all the details, I'm going to focus on one table in particular, which is just the summary of recommendations at the end that I thought you would find helpful, right? So these are different circumstances or scenarios, the rest interval recommendation, and why. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. And if you're not doing this already in the gym, this could help with your performance and your recovery. So the first circumstance is if you're doing a multi-joint, your main multi-joint movement. So this might be like a squat or deadlift, and you're doing volume work at or close to failure. So keep that in mind. When we say volume work, volume work, we are talking about submaximal, right? Like maybe what some people would think is like maybe 4 reps from failure, something like that, or 3 to 4 reps from failure. However, you're doing volume work. So you're doing a lot of reps, and therefore it's still creating a lot of fatigue by the end of that set. So here they recommend 3 to 5 minutes because your performance is going to decrease in each set. And if you're trying to get the volume in, you wouldn't want to have a decline in that volume because you didn't rest long enough. So that's a reason to do that. The second circumstance is doing that same volume work, but you're farther from failure. So this might be like if you're doing speed work on a conjugate program, you're doing a light day, in heavy, light, medium. You're doing what else? Where else does this come into play? I'm trying to think of another scenario, like maybe assisted work with bands and chains, potentially stuff like that, where you're not as close to failure. So less rest period is necessary, right? You're not going to impair your performance as much because you're not training that close to failure. And so this could save you some time. All right. The third scenario is classic training heavy, 85% of 1RM. So that would be like sets of 3, 4, 5 in that range. And strength is the primary goal. That's where you need the longest rest periods, 3 to 5 or more minutes. And I will tell you, if you're doing something like super heavy deadlifts for sets of, for triples or 5s, and you're doing 2 or more sets, definitely take the 5+ minutes in between. I like to go by both the time, kind of set a minimum, like 4 minutes. And then beyond that, see if you're recovered. Like, are you out of breath? Do you feel like you're ready to go after that next set? Otherwise, give yourself another minute. All right. And this will maximize your performance on each set. And that's really the whole goal. That's it. And then lastly, anything smaller than that, submaximal or otherwise, as long as it's an assistance movement or an isolation movement, 1 to 3 minutes are just fine. I like 2 to 3 minutes. I like to get to at least two. But if it's a real isolation movement like barbell curls, maybe it's 1.5. Lateral raises, things like that. So I just wanted to share some rest interval recommendations. I've talked about this on the podcast in various ways, and also Jeff Hain and I talk about it on our upcoming Q&A. Now that one's coming out on May 3rd. So that's after so Haley Fountain's episode's next Friday, and the following Friday will be the Q&A with Jeff Hain of the Mind Muscle Connection, where we answered 6 questions. One of those is about rest periods. So both of us go into more detail with different perspectives. And then 5 other questions. One of them is about, I think, menopause, fat loss, or menopause, training for over 50, and a whole bunch of other questions about both diet and nutrition and training. So that's all I have for you today. If you have any comments, questions, if you like this video, like it, love it. Actually, loving a video will help more people see it than the like, believe it or not, in case fun fact you didn't know. And other than that, enjoy your weekend. And those of you in Wits Weights Physique University, let's have fun today. It's our first live call. Just a reminder. You get plenty of reminders from me anyway, but definitely join that if you can, and the replay will be available. That's an example of a live coaching and Q&A call that you get as part of Wits and Weights Physique University. And for those of you listening who are like, what are you talking about? Go to witsandweights.com/physique, witsandweights.com/physique, and you can learn all about it. This is our brand new semi-private group coaching program with just about every resource you could imagine in a group coaching program for an unbelievable price that doesn't seem competitive at all, or doesn't seem real for what you get. So anyway, you get a lot of stuff in here. It's all described on the page. I'm not going to go over it now. You go to witsandweights.com/physique, and I'll see everyone there. Otherwise, the rest of you, enjoy your weekend. Have fun in the community. Take advantage of this service. #AskPhilip. Look for the post that looks like this. It's posted on Friday afternoons, and you can post all the way through the following Thursday night, and then I will answer it live on Friday. And with that, stay strong. We'll talk soon.